So before we get too much further into this, let's add a couple of adjustment layers to kind of bring some effects in and kind of help tie some things together. So let's go to layer, new adjustment layer. And to this adjustment layer, we're just going to add some noise. So let me find noise and grain, noise. There we go. And I'm going to crank this up pretty high. Something like that, maybe 20%, maybe 25. Typically you don't really want to go above 10 to 12%, but for something like this, it's kind of like this retro glitchy feel. I think this will work. So that's with noise, that's without. So this footage is the film footage, which has some noise in it already. We're just adding some additional noise. You saw it here on this camera without, with. So it just adds a little bit to it. It's really going to help with like some of these footage pieces like this one. So off, on. So down here, let's hit return. Let's name this noise. Then I'm going to add another new adjustment layer. I'm going to drag it underneath the noise. And I'm going to call this, let's just call it shift. And to this, I'm going to add an effect. Channel, shift channels. And we're going to change this from red to blue. This to full off. And this bottom one to blue as well. And then we're going to actually change the screen mode down here to lighten. And it doesn't look like there's much going on, but if we go up and add one more effect now to our adjustment layer, which is under distort, transform, and we're going to shift the position by 4 pixels. So instead of 960, we're going to make it, let's say 956. And there you go. So you can see now this kind of almost like a chromatic aberration effect, but it's not quite. It's not the red, green, and blue. It's just like this pink offset. And I found this to be kind of interesting, somewhat interesting to look at. So this is with, and then I'll turn off without. So pretty cool stuff going on there already, kind of blending this stuff together. So let's take a preview of this. Yeah, it's really digging this. It's really starting to come together now. Okay, I want to add one more adjustment layer here. And let me just find something. So look at that. It's pretty cool, huh? So layer, new adjustment layer. And this one, we're going to hit return and we're going to call it displacement. And we're going to use the displacement effect here. Displacement is very, very powerful in motion graphics. You see it a lot these days, especially with glitching and things like that. So it's really simple to set up. We're going to go to distort, displacement map, and we are going to tell this displacement map to alter the images based on another layer. So what I have is I have a pre-rendered layer I'm going to go ahead and bring in. There it is. And all this is a footage file that I'm going to actually bring to the very bottom of my timeline here. And I'm going to turn it off. And by double clicking it in the project window, we open up a footage layer. And you can see here, this is what it is. It's how I created it was with fractal noise. It's just black and white, grayscale images, moving around with fractal noise and solids and things like that. If I play this in real time, you can see here, it's very fast, but it's 10 seconds in length. It covers the length of the composition. And it just is going to create some displacement for the rest of the footage here. So back in my timeline, we don't need to see it. It's turned off. I have it locked so I don't accidentally delete it. I go back into displacement. And under displacement map layer, I'm going to select the displacement map. And you can see something's already happening here. So if I increase, we have horizontal displacement and vertical displacement. If I increase these, you can see what happens here in the viewer here. So all we have to do now is just go through and just set some keyframes for when we want the displacement to come on, because I don't want it to happen all the time. It's interesting if it's happening all the time, like we see here, but it's too much. So we just want it to kind of come on and off throughout. So maybe each time the piano hits, we can have it kind of pop on. So how we would do that, there's a couple different ways. We could actually set keyframes for the horizontal and the vertical, and I'll pull those up by hitting U on the keyboard. And I'm going to set hold keyframes here. Okay, so I'm going to bring this to the beginning, set 2 more keyframes now, so they're holding. Go back to the beginning and set these to 0. So we don't want to go negative. We just want to 0 these out. So there's no displacement going on. So nothing's happening. All of a sudden they pop on. Here they are. Maybe it's there. Now it's too much. Maybe I'll wait a couple frames and I'll drop it way down. A lot of times with displacement, we don't need a lot of it. We just need a little bit. So let's drop down to 25 and 25. And maybe it plays there for a little bit. It kind of goes on, and maybe here maybe it pops back off. And all I'm doing is hitting tab on my keyboard, and it goes to the next value here. So since I have these 2 values pulled up, it's going to go from whatever value I enter here. I hit tab and it goes to the next value. So here we are. Cool. Here's another piano hit. So maybe it just pops on vertically really quickly here. And maybe it's zeroed back out here, but maybe it goes a little bit on the X for just a frame and then back to 0. Like I said, we don't need a lot of this. And I'll go to the next key here, and maybe we'll glitch it for a second there. Back to 0. Maybe here. Maybe go negative this time. Actually, let's go. Yeah, that's kind of cool. That's interesting. I can really pull it here. Also, if you change from green to luminance here, you're not going to see a big change in the footage here because we're using black and white footage. But if you were, depending on what your displacement map is, if your displacement map has color in it, you can change these values to red, green, or blue, or alpha to read that displacement. And maybe right here would be kind of interesting just to give it a little bit there and there. And then back to 0. Actually, let's just leave it like maybe a very minimal amount. So 2 and 1. And let's just preview that. And you notice it's starting to slow down the previews here because I'm really adding a lot of effects to this and it's getting more intense. Yeah, so that's looking pretty good. Save it. And I'm going to make one adjustment here. I'm going to crank this one way up. And, you know, actually something we can do here is we can set these to 0. So all I did was command click to change these back to normal keyframes. And I can just actually make these kind of ramp up, right? So just like normal keys here. So they'll actually ramp up and then jump back. And maybe we'll have them jump back right here where the scale keyframe happens. Cool. And to make this aperture image blend in a little bit better, let's go ahead and go to color correction, black and white, and make it black and white. So there we go. So now it's more black and white with that kind of pinkish tones going on there. I think it'd be kind of interesting to see some X shapes in here, which we see a lot in Glitch as well. So let's create a new composition. And let's just make this actually 2000, but it's fine. X shape. And we'll go ahead and let's see if we've got a footage array. I think we could use this. And we'll go ahead and scale it up just slightly. And we'll add a rectangle to it. And then this rectangle, we will double click, make it 45. And for here, we're going to Command D to duplicate. And we're going to take this mask and double click and hold down Shift and go negative. and then a new adjustment layer. And we'll go back to transition, Venetian blinds again. We'll go 45, increase this a bit, increase this a bit. And there's our X shape. So back in the main composition, bring this in right here on top. And let's do a scale keyframe. So when it's, we'll do a right click, toggle hold. And we'll do another one here so it's much smaller here. So maybe something like that. And we'll toggle hold that one. And then we'll go back to small again. Something like that. And, you know, at this point, I can start actually duplicating different layers and using them in different places. So like maybe here, I could go full, something big like that. I want to see something here. Maybe something with the glitchy shapes. So I'm going to open this back up and I'm going to find a layer here that's not being used, but this one's turned off. I'll turn it on. Yeah, that could be pretty cool. So we'll see if that one works here. Maybe it comes on right here. I also want to see something like horizontal right here. So let's go back into glitchy shapes. And what do we got here? Let's actually just create a new shape layer right here. And we'll double click. We're going to fill this one. Turn off the stroke. And we're going to bring the size down quite a bit here. Go back into our, and actually bring the start point and the end point, maybe right there. They could overlap just a little bit. Yeah, that's cool. I'm going to save, and just for the hell of it, I want to go ahead and take this motherboard and say effect color correction black and white and see how it looks. I like that. It feels like it might be too much taking away from, like, especially here. Like, I liked some of the color that was in there. So something we could do is maybe go, instead of black and white, we could go to color correction tint. And tint kind of does the same thing, but I'm going to turn down the amount to tint to 50%. So this is with, without. So it's a little bit less. I like that. Might be cool to see an X right here. So I'll duplicate. Bring that guy in. Maybe try and bring it above the footage. And let's see here. Let's try and set it to multiply. Yeah. And it's just for like a frame, very quickly. Let's try this. So a couple things bugging me now. One of them is this footage here. I don't love how it's looking. So let's try this guy. Set it to screen. We'll turn this guy off. So that's kind of interesting. It's a lot more subtle. Even normal. Actually, that's the wrong layer. Change this back to normal. So I like how we can see through a little bit here with this texture. Yeah, I like this. This is looking cool. So just watching it, this is a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just watch it over and over again just to kind of get an idea. I want to see this shape change slightly. It sits here a little bit too long for me, so I'm gonna do a hold keyframe. Actually, let's just make it scale down really quickly. Maybe to, or maybe it scales up. Let's reverse these. Time reverse. Let's see how this looks. So maybe we could start pretty small here. Something like that. That helped a lot. So you can see here, it's just these very simple keyframes, right? So just a very simple scale brings more attention. Like there's something coming towards us and the word head comes on and then we cut to this, you know, happy accidents, but they work, right? And so maybe right here, I don't want to come back to this. So I'm going to cut it right there. That's interesting. Maybe something, I mean, I like the negative space here. The frames doesn't always have to be full. So that could work possibly. Maybe here, it might be interesting to see the paper texture come back again, which we saw just for a frame or two earlier. So I'll try and bring it here and see how it looks. And then I'll try bringing it below the X. So there's our X. Actually, I'm going to try something here. I'm going to go Effect, Channel, and Invert. So it's going to make all the values that were... Actually, I'll take that off and I'll show you really quickly. I'll solo this layer. So this layer is now soloed. By clicking this button right here, it says, okay, I only want to see this layer and nothing else. If I solo this layer plus this layer, then I can see those two layers. But this is an easy way just to solo something to look at it more carefully. And you can see that there's white values here. The black is an alpha channel. If I turn the transparency on, you can see there. So it's white. If I go to Effect, Channel, Invert, it's going to make all the white values black and the black values white. So now if I unsolo this, it's much more apparent that it's sitting on this paper, right? So without invert and then with invert. Let's see how that looks. And then maybe when this comes on, yeah, they can just overlap very slightly there. Okay, so let's take a look at this. It's getting there. We need to get up to this point right here, which is, this is the show title. This is where the show title will come on. So let's see. So right here, we want something to happen. Go ahead and save this. I'm going to create another new composition, and we'll make this just 1920 by 1080. And we'll make it pretty short again. Let's make it 2 seconds. And let's do another new shape layer. And let's make a circle. Open that up. And we'll make it 100 by 100. Maybe a little bit smaller. Let's go 70. And we're going to add a repeater. 3 is good. Let's add another repeater. And to this one, we will go vertical. And we'll do a few more copies, maybe 6. And we're going to make this So what we'll do here is let's actually animate the repeater on this. So we'll have 3 copies across at all times. So let's animate the copies down. So we'll just say, maybe we start with 2 and over the course of 10 frames, we end up with 6. It's a pretty simple animation there. Maybe we'll start with 1. And yeah, that works for me. Let's actually make this even smaller. So let's go 45. And we'll open up repeater 1. And, well, repeater 1 works for me. Let's decrease the size between them. So we'll decrease that size to, let's say, 65. And then repeater 1, we'll do that 65 as well. And then we'll add a few copies here. So we'll go to like, well, 9. Maybe something like that. So that's interesting. Okay, so we've got 1 on the left side going down. So we're going to hit Command D and duplicate. And we're going to bring this guy over here. And we're going to rotate. Actually, let's undo that. Let's just rotate. Yeah, and that works just fine. So 180. So now we should have 1 going down and 1 going up. Perfect. That's what we want. And then right in the center of these 2, I want to create another shape layer. And again, we'll make this guy pretty small, maybe 250 by 250. Yeah, that's perfect. And we'll go back to the Venetian effect. So transition, Venetian, blinds. We'll go back to 45 degrees. And we'll crank this up. And then we will add a keyframe. I hit U on my keyboard to reveal that keyframe. And we're just going to do something like this. But we need to decrease. There we go. So we'll actually make it just, actually we'll reverse. We'll select both, right click, keyframe assistant, time reverse. So let's play through this. So that's interesting. It's a really interesting, I don't even know what we'd call this, but it's just an interesting shape animation. And if we bring this into our main composition, actually let's name it, we'll call it interesting pattern. And then in our main composition, you can see here our composition, our pre-comp got put in our stock folder here because we were messing, I guess the last thing we were messing with was film. So it by default, After Effects thinks to, if you create a new composition, it should be put in that folder. So we just need to drag it out here and put it in our comps folder. And we'll go ahead and bring these in here. And you may be asking, what is a working comp? Sometimes when you get very deep in your layers, you may have your output comp, which is your main composition. And then you may have like 1 or 2 working comps that just drop into that main comp. So a working comp is full of a lot of pre-comps. So maybe a working comp is at 4K resolution, but you only need to render out at 1920 HD resolution, and that's your main comp. So your working comp is brought into your main comp and scaled down to fit. So a working comp a lot of times can be very similar to an output comp, where it's the main comp with a lot of nested pre-comps inside of it. Hopefully that didn't get too sophisticated there with what I was talking about. So there we go. So because we added that shift adjustment layer above, it made it, even more interesting. It's got like this kind of pinkish white coolness to it here. So let's check this out. This is a great example of the previews taking a while. So I'm going to go ahead and drop it down from full to half. And you saw there a change in quality. There's full and there's half. So things aren't going to look exactly how they would look full quality, but it gives us a good idea of motion. So there needs to be something right here, some black space here. Could be something very simple. It could be another pattern that goes here. Um, and there needs to be something right here, which I'm not real sure of yet. So let's go ahead and stop this video and we'll pick up in the next video for the next part of the lesson.